We all know the feeling, right? You're bombarded with information from every direction. It's overwhelming.
Totally. And it's tough to know where to even begin sometimes, what to focus on.
Exactly. But that's where we come in. With the deep dive, we sift through it all. We take a whole pile of sources and we break them down just for you, so you can actually use what you learn.
It's about getting to the heart of the matter without spending hours and hours doing the digging yourself.
Right. And today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty cool. Google's Gemini AI. Specifically, their new deep dive research feature. They just released a blog post all about it.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff.
So we're going to break it down for you. By the end of this, you'll know exactly when to use this tool and how to use it, so it can really make a difference for you, whether it's for work, personal projects, or just satisfying your curiosity, whatever you're into.
Because who doesn't love learning new things, right? But more importantly, learning them in a way that's efficient. That's what this is all about.
So let's imagine you're wrestling with a really complex question, something with a lot of layers.
Right.
When would you choose this deep dive feature instead of just having a regular chat with Gemini?
Okay, good question. For those quick, simple facts, the regular chat is perfect. Like, what's the capital of France? Kind of thing.
Right.
But when you need to really dig deep, explore all sides of a topic, pull insights from a bunch of sources, that's where the deep dive comes in.
It's like the difference between skimming an article and really studying it, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The blog post actually gave some good examples. Like, say you're trying to analyze how an industry is changing. Or maybe you're trying to find a summer camp for your kid, but it has to have very specific activities and be in a certain location, things like that.
So it's about getting that well-rounded perspective, right?
Yeah.
Something you wouldn't get from a simple answer.
Exactly. Nuance, depth.
Okay, so you decide you want to use deep dive. Do you have to be a whiz with keywords? Like, do you have to have your search terms perfectly lined up before you even start?
Not at all. It's actually designed to be very user-friendly. You can start with natural language, like you talk to a person. Just ask your question in plain English.
Oh, that's good to know. So you don't have to be a tech expert to use this.
Nope. And here's the really cool part. It's iterative. That means you can start with a pretty broad question, and then as you see the results, you can refine it, make it more specific, zero in on exactly what you need.
So you kind of learn as you go.
Interesting.
And there's another feature I think you'll appreciate. It's called Show Thought. And it actually lets you peek behind the curtain.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, before the deep dive even starts, Gemini shows you its research plan, like step by step what it's going to do. And you can actually edit it. You can tweak the steps. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. So it's like you have a say in the research strategy itself. You're not just blindly trusting the AI. Precisely. It's a collaboration. So like with that summer camp example, you could start by asking something like, find me a summer camp in New York for my 10-year-old. And then once you see the plan, you could say, okay, but add in that it needs to have horseback riding and archery.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you don't have to feel overwhelmed trying to craft the perfect question right off the bat. You can refine it as you go.
Exactly. And speaking of refining things, what happens if you get your initial report and you realize, wait, I need more info on this specific point? You know what I mean?
Like maybe the report mentions something that sparks a whole new line of inquiry.
Yeah. And that's where the follow-up questions come in. You can literally just keep asking questions in the chat, even after you've gotten that first report. And Gemini will either answer based on what it already knows, or it will do further searches, targeted searches, to find what you need.
So it's like having a back-and-forth conversation with a really knowledgeable researcher.
That's a great way to put it. And the coolest part, that initial report you got, it actually updates in real time with this new information.
So you're not stuck with a static document. It keeps evolving.
Exactly. Like going back to the camp, let's say you wanted to know the camper to counselor ratio. You could just ask, hey, can you add that to my report? And boom, it goes and finds it, adds it right in.
That's incredibly helpful. Okay, so we've talked about how to use it, how to refine your search, how to ask follow-up questions. But there's another element that I think is crucial, especially when we're talking about AI, and that's transparency.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Because it's one thing to get an answer. It's another to understand where that answer came from and how much you can trust it. So what does this deep dive feature offer in terms of transparency?
Well, remember that show thought feature we talked about?
Oh.
Where you can see the AI's research plan? That's a big part of it. But there's also another feature called Sites Navigated.
Okay, what's that?
It gives you a list of all the websites that Gemini consulted to create your report. And these are live links. You can actually click them and go to those websites yourself to see the information in its original context.
So you're not just taking the AI's word for it, you can verify it.
Exactly. You can see the sources, evaluate them for yourself. That's huge for building trust. And, it also opens up the possibility of discovering even more related information on those websites, things that maybe weren't in the report itself.
It's like a rabbit hole of knowledge, huh? And the blog post also talked about how this can be especially useful for finding local information.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If you're trying to find a great Italian restaurant within walking distance, and it has to have vegan options, that's something that regular search engines can sometimes struggle with.
Because it's so specific. Hyperlocal.
Right. But the deep dive can handle that. It can really get into those granular details. And that's not just restaurants. It's all kinds of local stuff. Think about planning a birthday party, finding a good dry cleaner, whatever you need. It can make your life easier.
Okay, so you've done your deep dive. You've got this awesome report full of information. Now what? What can you actually do with it?
Well, first off, you can have Gemini create an audio summary of the report, like a little mini podcast, basically. Which is pretty cool if you want to listen to it on the go during your commute or whatever.
So it's not just for reading, it's for listening too.
Yep. You can share the summary, download it, whatever you want. But here's the most practical feature, in my opinion. You can export the entire report with all the sources and everything directly to Google Docs.
Oh, wow. So you don't have to copy and paste everything manually?
Exactly. It's super smooth. And it even includes a works cited section, all formatted correctly, which is a lifesaver if you're using this for school or work. You don't have to worry about plagiarism.
It's all right there, ready to go.
Yep. You can edit it, share it, whatever you need to do. So efficient.
That's really impressive. So it seems like this deep dive feature is a pretty big step forward in terms of how we can use AI for, serious research. Not just getting quick answers, but really understanding things in depth.
And doing it in a way that's clear and transparent. I think that's key. The more we understand how AI works, the more we can trust it. And the more we can use it to our advantage.
Absolutely. So for you listening out there, I want you to consider this. If you can see how the AI came to its conclusions, if you can check its sources, how might that change the way you approach information in general? Even when you're not using this specific tool, how does that affect your own research process?
That's a really good question to think about. It makes you wonder how we'll all be using AI in the future and how it'll shape the way we learn and think.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Thanks for diving deep with this today.
It's been a pleasure. I always love exploring these new tools. It keeps things interesting, that's for sure.